This is Bumbly Beach, a 2-year scenario where we need to take the park from 225 guests to 750. It has one large and very good wooden coaster, a Ferris wheel and a merry-go-round already built. The queue line for the coaster is quite short and already full, so I'll immediately extend that. Then I check on guest thoughts to see that they think the rides are really good value. Best make them a little bit more expensive then. Next, I added an on-ride photo section to boost the Big Dipper revenue even more, and it has 2 quite small cars, so I'll maximise those as best possible without extending the station, although I could always do that later. The rides are well spaced out right now, so I'm going to move the merry-go-round in alongside the Big Dipper, basically so I'm not working around it for future construction and guests don't have so far to walk until they come across a ride. We have a roller coaster and 2 gentle rides already in the park, but my only thrill ride available to build is a twist, so I'll get that in straight away alongside the merry-go-round. The way to win this scenario is surely to build more rides, and as we only start with 3, I won't waste any time. We've got the twist, and you must know by now I'm a fan of Mango Muncher, so as soon as research provides me with the junior coaster, it's going in, keeping it as close to the existing path as possible to avoid using unnecessary space. We are really limited in rides available for construction outside of the gentle category, so research is going to be vital if we want variety. So while I wait new rides, I'm going to add a spiral slide, and then my second researched ride is a log flume, and I feel the guests here will really like one of those, given that they seem to prefer less intense rides, although that said, the Big Dipper is quite an intense coaster. We won't get that level of intensity with a log flume, but I know I can definitely achieve a good excitement rating. To help with that, I will deliberately build the ride among what is already in place. It climbs out under the Big Dipper, across the path, passing Mango Muncher before dropping underneath the Big Dipper. An underground section takes us below the path before we turn above ground for a final short drop back to the station. This isn't a particularly long log flume, but a big drop, some smaller ones, an underground section and close proximity to other rides should return me some good stats, so let's find out. A shade below 6 is a good return for this log flume's excitement, I'm happy with that. And while I was building the log flume, research gave me the pirate ship, so that goes straight in, and I'm still keeping things compact to leave myself ample room for new roller coasters once my research develops them. We do now have a wooden wild mouse available, so I'll use the space beyond the wooden roller coaster to build my first custom coaster of this scenario. These rides allow steep inclines, so I will get the coaster high straight out of the station before turning into its first dip, turning and then dipping into a loop around the chain lift hill. Hitting ground level, we then come back up slightly and continue the pattern of bending around the ride's own track. We'll have a bit of speed at this point, so even though the cars do bend naturally, I'll use wider turns as I'm a little concerned about my intensity rating here. We then climb up slightly for one more dip before heading back to the station. So, as I said, intensity could be an issue here, but there's only one way to find out. Let's hit test. Well, I hadn't accounted for not having enough speed for those short but steep climbs, so I'm going to need to rethink the second half of this ride design. I'll use another chain lift hill to effectively create a ride in 2 halves, with another steep drop and a fairly quick return to ground level where some wide bends will have guests bending at speed along the track. Wooden wild mouse rides can pass through doors, so to add an exciting element at the end of the ride, I will build a small building for the ride to pass through. So let's test again. And skipping to those all-important results, yes, it's just too fast. I'll need to reduce the size of those 2 steepest drops. I'll edit out the test ride this time to take you straight to the results, and it's an improvement but still too intense. The lateral Gs are showing up red on my ride data, so I'll track the first car to see exactly where those Gs are spiking too high. I've spotted a problematic area with tight corners, so I'll remove that section of track, and instead of having the ride reach the ground, I'll keep its speed under control by having it travel a little higher and actually out over the Big Dipper and its queue. This will be a longer ride now, so let's see if this has improved the stats. Doesn't actually make it over that bump. So I've made that a smaller bump, tested again, and now to wait for those stats. Please be under control. Yes, this may be too intense for some guests here, but it's very exciting and the nausea rating is just medium. So let's get it open and move on, as I only have a year left now to get up to that 750 guest target. After a very intense Wild Mouse comes a much more relaxed Haunted House as I enter year 2. I'm only around 200 or so guests from reaching the goal, and I'm doing okay for money, so I don't think I'll have too many issues meeting the target here, but I'd like another roller coaster to be sure. There's a lot of space to work with and a few ride options now, but after spending too much time on the Wild Mouse, I'm going to choose Ponytails, a pre-built steeplechase. Why? Well, we have 2 intense roller coasters already, and this is a pretty good version of a less intense coaster, and it's got a compact design, so there will be space for me to build another of my own coasters shortly. After the quick addition of Dodgems, I'll get to work on a corkscrew coaster. This should help me pass the park goals if I can construct a good one in a reasonable amount of time. I'll start with a climb out of the station, and then it's a turning drop into a corkscrew and an on-ride photo section. We'll take a wide turn back over the station and into another corkscrew close to the main path. From there we'll turn 180 degrees and come back under the chain lift hill. A steep incline takes us into another drop before we helix into a vertical loop. We now head back to the edge of the ride via another corkscrew, and as we head back towards the station, another loop leads the ride into yet another corkscrew. This is going to be a problem, isn't it? We just made it over those last 2 inversions, and with 6 inversions in total we hit a very intense 9.3, but not too intense. Will the guests ride it? Well, before they do, I will quickly make the ride ever so slightly taller, just to make sure we do keep making those last 2 inversions, and with just minor change in the ride stats, it's time to get the guests on board. I have Virginia Wheel available to me, so I'll add a Crazy Nights just to make sure that we truly do hit that 750 goal, and with space and money available, I'll add an Icicle Bob in too. We're still quite low on thrill rides, but Topspin is available, so I'll place that between my wooden Wild Mouse and Corkscrew, and then I will use a rectangular area still spare in the corner of my park to add a maze, giving guests a gentle option between the 2 coasters down there, along with some decorative flowers. I'm way above my guest target now, but with a few months left I will use my remaining bit of space for a go-kart track, which won't take me too long to build. Hardly the most exciting track, but with an uphill section and subsequent drops, plus the addition of some scenery, we still have a reasonable ride. Motion Simulator becomes available in October, so I might as well add one, and as I build a path to link up parts of the park, we get to the end of October and the goal is complete. Not my best effort, I don't think, and several of the coasters were from the build menu, but the task is complete, so on to the next one.